Hey, everybody. Happy Wine Wednesday. I am sipping on my usual Chardonnay. Let me know what you're sipping on in the comments. Hope you have had a fabulous week. Hope your tanks are doing well. And let's see, for updates, it's been a hectic week for me. But the only updates I have is I think that we're going to proceed to try with the messenger chat that I discussed last week for members, and also possibly do like a group for members on Facebook. So just stay tuned. And it's not done. I still have to get with Holly and Cheryl after the stream to finalize things, but just stay tuned and watch for posts. So you'll be part of that because I want to make sure the members get special perks, like I said before. I think I know we all of us, I have Ray, Cheryl, and Holly with me, and we all have different little announcements to make. So we'll jump to that. But it is open chat. So any questions you have about seahorses, anything you want to share, do so in the comment section. We're having trouble getting the stream over to Instagram. I think they basically caught on that I was using a third-party software to stream in. So it's not working on Instagram. So if you have any friends that watch on Instagram, maybe mention to them that it's still happening. They just got to go jump on over to YouTube until we can get it fixed. That's about it for. Well, I do have an announcement about seahorses, but I want Holly to go first. And Holly, should I show your video that you
Yeah,
sent?
you can show that video.
Okay, let's see if I can pull that up. But tell us what's going
And
on.
and so basically as of around Saturday morning, I want to say I noticed that my male seahorse in the display tank that is actually, mating with someone or trying to for the last couple years, he started acting a little different in that he wasn't really too interested in breakfast that morning. He ate a little bit, and then took off. And I was away for the weekend. So after I fed them breakfast, I left and came back Sunday afternoon and was feeding everyone. And of course, I come home and everybody's really hungry, but he really wasn't. And he was just acting differently, like kind of shy and
Mm-hmm.
kind of hidey. And so I was watching him and I was looking closely at him to see, because I'm like, oh, great. Does he have a bacterial infection or something going on? So I'm looking at his body, for signs of that. And he looks fine. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on with you, Scrappy, but, I'm going to watch. And so then, like Monday, he didn't come to the feeding station like he normally does, but I gave him a little food out of the turkey baster and he ate it. He was on a hitch kind of in the back of the tank where he likes to sit sometimes. It was like he was lazy. He's like, I'm not coming to breakfast, but I'll eat if you bring it to me. So
Mm-hmm.
he ate a little bit there. And then he wasn't like his exuberant self, like chasing the girls and getting all flirty with Candy. And he missed lunch. And then around close to dinner time, he came and hitched next to Dandy's little dish. Dandy eats out of a little shell, because he can't swim up to the feeding station. And he ate his dinner with Dandy. And just I started watching his behavior, and it's like he'll sit with the females, but he doesn't do his
Flirty.
shivering thing with them. He doesn't flirt with them. He'll hang out with the other seahorses, but he's kind of like it's like he's laying low.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Heather, like, I kind of talked to her a little bit, and she was telling me kind of behavior to watch for, and it's just spot on that he might be pregnant. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like one of the things she said, suspicious. It's like he's suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Or just he's protecting
Not
himself from.
just, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me play the video real quick and let's see.
So
Go
And
ahead.
to
Sorry.
me, it's hard for me to tell looking at him because when my previous seahorse, that's the dad of all the fry I raised. Oh, the other one, the other one before that, you want to show?
Oh,
Actually,
sorry. Okay.
yeah.
This one?
No, before that's Cheryl. So one more back. Yeah,
Okay.
from
This one.
there.
There.
You. That's where I'm kind of starting to noticing from looking at him front on that maybe he's looking more bulgy than usual. And I
Yep.
just noticed that within the last couple days, like the last 2 days, I'm like, maybe he's just pregnant. Maybe he's not sick. And so I don't know. It's more right now. I have trouble looking because he's always had a big pouch.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends on the angle I look at him at, but it's more his behavior that's kind of cluing me in right now because his dad, Sandy, caught me by surprise every time. He never looked pregnant to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And also, if this is Scrappy Doo, if he indeed is pregnant, it's his first batch,
it's
so it
his
may very well be
first time.
small. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of watching him to see how he acts, how he does, and
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't want to throw him in the hospital without being more sure that he's actually sick. And I'm kind of thinking it's not that. I'm leaning towards the pregnancy just
Well,
from other people's experience on what they witness when their males are pregnant. And Heather gave me a really good description that I can read to you guys if you'd like.
go ahead.
So I pulled it up on my phone because she said this. She says, I usually look at the female possible mate to see how she does. As he gets fatter with pregnancy, she starts chunking up too because she's getting eggs ready to give him when he's done birthing the ones that he has. My males usually significantly decrease their intake when pregnant, hide from me more. They look at me and everything as suspicious, laughing out
Mm-hmm.
loud. And that's what he's kind of watching and not like he's really afraid, but he's concerned about me.
Mm-hmm.
They try to hide their bellies in particular, I find. They also don't pay attention to their mate, and neither does the mate until about a day or two before giving birth. Then, when
Hmm.
they get really flirty, I know babies are coming within a day or two. Usually the male will backs off feeding until a day or two before birth. Then he's ravenously hungry. When he does that, I can usually count on some fry in about 24 to 48 hours. And
Interesting.
he's backing off the food and like he doesn't eat all the meals. Sometimes he'll pick at a meal, but he won't go to the feeding station now. He likes to eat with Dandy a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
What's
And
interesting? Go ahead. Go ahead
If
and
you
finish.
notice, that female was also had looking much slimmer than she was a week
mhm,
ago. She
Mm-hmm.
just
mhm.
she did not have her ovipositor extended. That was the one of the things I was kind of questioning. But this sounds like it's been going on a little longer than I was realizing.
Mm-hmm.
No ovipositor. She's lost. She's looking sunken in, which is
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
normal.
Yep,
mhm,
After
in one of my videos, I'll have to find it and link it. But in one of my videos, I show a female right after they've done the egg exchange, and I
mhm,
explain that your seahorse should not look like this unless they've just done an egg exchange. Then it's
mhm.
completely normal. But what's interesting to me, and I want to let Ray
And
jump
I
in here
was
too.
gone,
Oh,
like I said, for the weekend. So I
so
mean,
you don't
maybe
know.
they did, but normally for them, it's a 3-day extravaganza.
It's a
And
party, huh?
neither one of them really eats much during that time.
Well, see, that's interesting. I agree with everything that Heather said, and she's a great go-to, guys, if you want this kind of information, because she's got babies out the wazoo all the time. But I was going to say the only difference that I've seen in my seahorses, and actually, let me jump back a little bit. And one of my updates was I'm pretty sure my male's pregnant too. I'm having the
Oh, yeah.
exact same situation where all of a sudden I go to feed the tank. The three are, or the four are there, but one's not there, and I'm like, okay, counting, which one's
Yeah.
which one's, and it was the big male that I've had the
Mhm.
longest, and he wasn't coming to eat, and I was like, where is he? And I found him hitched to the Robert King chamber,
Mhm.
getting the bubbles, which kind of concerns me. I'd like to ask a quick, remind me later to ask about bubbles when they're pregnant. But so he's in the bubbles, and his pouch looks bigger, and that time he wouldn't even eat from the baster. Like, I would baste food to him and he wouldn't eat it, and I got really worried, and I was like,
Mhm.
uh-oh, what's wrong? Because he was also since well, I know I'm jumping around, guys, but you guys know I want Fry. And when I added the two seahorses from Vincent to this tank, I told you guys the big older male started getting really jealous because both the other three females were only interested in the new boy because he's really
Mhm.
pretty, he's young,
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
spunky, and he's cute. Well, so I noticed that the older male was starting to color up. All of a sudden he was bright yellow again, and he was, really into not attacking the females, but trying to get them to flirt with him. So I did notice my older female flirting with the younger male. I know this is getting tongue twisty, but
Mhm.
she was flirting with the younger male, and she did fatten up. And I was like, oh, cool, maybe my younger male will get pregnant. And then all of a sudden, the older male is acting, weird. So I went to feed him that day. He was darkened up. He wasn't bright yellow anymore. All of a sudden, his
Mhm.
pouch looked bigger, and he would not feed even from the baster, and he would not get come down. And at first I thought, oh, well, maybe it's because I just turned the lights on, because in my tank, when I first turn the light, it takes them a minute to get going. So if I try to feed
Mhm.
immediately, they don't jump on it. So I thought that, so I gave him some time, tried to feed again, and then like the third time I tried to feed, he would take it from the baster, but he still wouldn't go eat from the column, right?
Mhm.
And Ray said us older males always act funny. Anyways, but the one thing that, and I would, of course, like Holly, was at first worried. Uh-oh, there's something wrong with him, because not feeding is the instant. When they don't eat, that's your instant.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, right? But the other thing I did notice, and this is where I'm going to veer off from Heather, and I want to know, Ray, what your experience is with this. But when my males have always been pregnant, they do become more secluded. They do seem to hide from me and everything,
Mhm.
but they all, my male and female, the pair, have always, every pair I've ever had, like, meet
Mhm.
up at least once a day, like she's checking on him.
Yeah.
Like, she'll go to him and hang
Mhm.
out with him, even no matter what everybody else in the tank, even if it's feeding time, she'll stop eating to go check on him, like,
Mhm.
and I noticed that behavior. So
Mhm.
that when she said that they stay away from each other, that's not my experience. But and in this
Mine aren't
case, okay,
either. They're
okay,
hanging out, like, he'll hang out even with everybody, all of them. He'll
mm,
hang out, but he's not flirting.
gotcha.
And he acts kind of annoyed, like, Sadie went kind of close to him earlier today when he was on his favorite hitch, which is on the opposite side of the tank from Dandy. And he kind of maneuvered himself around
Hmm.
instead of getting all flirty with her, or, like, he's kind of like, I'll sit next to you, but don't get too close, kind of leave me alone. But he
Yep.
likes to sleep next to everybody at night. So, like that one video you started to show where it was in the red, that's
Hmm.
their sunrise. They have a 15-minute sunrise. So in
Let's see
the
if I
early
can play it real quick.
morning, yeah, in the early morning, yeah, right there. So when I first turn on the sunrise, they're all together. See, he's nearby with all of them,
Mm. Well,
but
see, and
he,
go ahead.
but he likes sitting on that little palm tree for nighttime hitching. And Ray was talking about, like, you can use candling to check and see if there's anything in their pouch, which is basically shining a bright light.
Oh yeah.
So I was thinking maybe trying that in the morning before the lights come on in the tank because he sits right there and there's only an inch between the front of the tank and him.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if that
You
might
gotta- you have
okay.
to shine the light from behind.
Mm.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, that would make it hard then because I'd have to pull him out of the
That's
tank
in
to
a
do it.
corner when you can come shine, say, on an end plate, and shine it through a seahorse sitting in the corner, shining towards the front of the aquarium.
Yeah, but see, my aquarium's insulated, so the only place you can see through is the front.
Well, then
Well,
that ain't gonna
then
work
the
for
only
you.
alternative
Yeah,
is just momentarily pull them out of the water.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have
I
to
don't know if
pull
it's
him
worth
out.
all that though. Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm thinking because I don't want to stress him out. I'd rather
Right.
maybe wait longer and just see if he gets fatter. And
But if I don't have that problem where I probably could use the light trick. And what Ray's saying is you don't take a flashlight or your phone light or whatever and directly look at the seahorse. You put it behind and
oh,
look like the
Phone
reflection
light's not
kind of.
bright enough.
Oh, phone line's not. Well,
No.
I'll do
has to
that,
be
and I'll
very
take a
bright.
video of it, and we'll play it next week and see if that works for me, if I can see anything, or if you guys can see anything from the video. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying because like with my mail, when I turned on the lights, through the three of them were including the bigger male that I believe is now pregnant,
Mhm.
were hitched to the Robert King chamber. They just love that thing. They sleep there, and they fight over it too. They fight over who gets to be there. But then the rest of them go and start exploring the tank once the lights on, and he just stayed. So it's not like he was, telling them they couldn't be next to him, and it's
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
he went to a hole because they were there. It was just
yeah. It's just kind of laying low. And see what I'm noticing about Scrappy Doo. He's traveling around the tank, but he doesn't want to see me swim. He doesn't mind.
what
He
do you mean?
doesn't want me to see him swim.
See him swim. Okay, I think you
Yeah,
said see you
I
swim.
said it wrong. Yeah, I
It's
said
all
it
right.
wrong. But so he'll hang out in a place, and let me look at him, let me watch him, but he won't move from that place
hmm
until I go off and do something else. Then I come back in the room and he's somewhere else. Where
Yep.
he used to always just go wherever he wanted,
He's being
in front of
sneaky.
me and come to the dish to eat right in front where I could film him. So yeah, it's the sneakiness and that that like the word Heather used,
Suspicious.
suspicious. Like
hmm
he's
Yeah.
suspicious, like so I might be plotting against him or something. But he's still kind of trusting enough. Like I said, he'll take some food from the baster if he feels like it, not every
Yep.
time, and he'll snick food and if he wants to, but he's not as gung ho on it or
Okay.
anything.
Okay. So I have a question for Ray, real quick. So because this is a good situation, I was worried too when I first saw this behavior where they stopped eating. So when a seahorse stops eating, if it's male, then what would be your key determination to whether or not there's a problem? Meaning, like, if a male seahorse doesn't eat, here's a better
I
way to say the
always
question.
candle them.
You
Why
always
should
what?
I sit there and
The
stew about
candle.
the problem, wondering, is it pregnant or have I got a problem?
So
Because if
what
it's
if?
not pregnant, I want to get at the problem immediately and get that seahorse into the hospital tank. So I
Sure.
always candle. When I
So when
first,
you,
many years ago, I used to use spotlight.
yep.
We use spotlights for growing the nano in deep containers. And so there were 90-watt spotlights and just screw them into a clamp on fixture and they'd be on the tub there. Well, I would just take that off, unplug it, and go over to whichever tank had the seahorse that I wanted to check out, plug it in. And most of the time, I didn't wait for being able to get it in the corner. I would just take it out momentarily, put the 60 or the 90-watt spotlight behind it, and check it that way. But eventually, when they were doing away with incandescent lights, you can't buy a 90-watt spotlight anymore.
Right.
And so I actually have This one, this is a light
Oh,
here
yeah.
that I have 1300 lumen, 1300 lumens. And so I use that one, and it doesn't show as nice as the 90 watt, but it shows well.
And what are you looking for when you use candle or spotlight? Are you just looking for something within the pouch?
What?
You just see a
Yeah. First of
shadow?
all, you'll see a darker mass just for the egg mass, and usually the pouch isn't full, so you'll see a difference from the area around where there is no egg mass, and it'll be a darker area. But
Does
eventually,
that work right
you'll
away?
see
Like as
actual
soon as
movement when it gets later on. You'll see actual movement of the egg developing in there.
but is there like day one you'd be able to see the mass?
Yeah, as soon as there's a
Okay.
transfer. Once there's
Okay.
eggs in there, you can see a darker coloration.
Well, that's my goal for this week, guys. I'm going to make a video of me trying to attempt this. My dad has a shop light, so I'll
And
borrow it.
if you're not sure when you look at it, take a male that you know isn't pregnant, candle that so you can see the difference.
Gotcha. Okay, I would, and I'll do that for the video. And only other question would be, so if I candle, that sounds so funny. If I candle my males, if I can, if I see if they're pregnant using this method, and let's say he's not, then I start worrying, right?
Yes.
Because
Immediately
anytime a
put it in the
seahorse doesn't
hospital
eat,
tank, in my opinion.
okay.
Yeah, but
Is there any other situation where a seahorse won't eat, Cheryl? Like
Well-
other than pregnancy or sickness?
What I was going to say is typically when a male becomes pregnant in the early stages, he's still going to be more reclusive. He's not going to eat as much. Oftentimes they will have primary places that they love to hide. And I've even had females go after and go searching for their males that they mated with
Yep.
and interact with them that way. The other thing to keep in mind is, and it's something we don't really talk much about, but they're actually seahorses are actual seasonal breeders. And when you look at, this is why I like keeping combs and erectus, because erectus are normally start reproducing in the early spring and go through until October or November. And then you'll see them kind of back off a little bit, not as much. Whereas the combs would do exactly the opposite. They would come into breeding conditions in September, October, and that was reversed.
So basically, this is the time that you would expect erectus to
I
get
had redye that produced all year.
Right. It does depend. I don't remember my erectus ever taking a break for the first like 3 years, and then they would start only, they stopped, and I was like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And then it started this seasonal thing because he still would. It's just as they got older, they weren't rabbits, every day, every minute.
The other thing you'll see them doing, and I've said this before, is if you've got an air stone in there, they will literally hitch to that and put their pouch over it.
Okay, why? Because that's exactly what my male was doing, and
Yeah.
I was worried. Like, you don't want to get air in there, buddy. So what?
Well,
It
it's
feels good.
sealed though if
Yeah.
there's eggs in it, right? Don't they seal their pouch after
Yeah.
an egg transfer? So maybe
Yeah.
they can't get air in them at
Well,
that point.
and I'm just saying again, until I do the candle method, all these symptoms are telling me he very well probably is pregnant, but I'm still, in a situation where
same
could
here.
he actually be
You
sick?
don't know.
And if the pouch isn't sealed, like, is there a danger to them being on top of an air stone if they flush on top of the air stone? I know, Cheryl, you said that you had one that would go and literally fill his pouch with air and float to the top and release it and come
Yeah.
back down. But isn't there more of a chance of pouch emphysema in that if they do
The
that?
can
thing is,
shower that
if
if they
they're
want.
pregnant, they're not opening their pouch.
Right, but I'm saying if he's not, is there
Well,
a
then
danger?
you're going to get something like the one that I named after Jeff Foxworthy. Here's your name, stupid. Because I had one male, he was courting a female, and every few minutes he was going over, inflating his pouch in the air stone and floating to the top.
Right, that's what I was just saying. But did he get pouch emphysema from that or no?
No.
I didn't let it go that long. I did a couple of pouch evacs on him, and after 3 in a row in 15 minutes, I said, "Okay, the air stone's going bye-bye."
Their stone's going. Yeah.
So you had to release the air from his pouch. He wasn't able to.
Well, this was a seahorse that he wasn't the brightest seahorse in the water,
Okay.
and he just I don't know what the deal was with him. He was
Was a
one I
male, what do you
raised, so
expect?
it's
What, Ray?
I said he was a male. What do you expect?
So, but Ray, you said it's not a danger.
No, it's not a danger. Pouch emphysema will never come from
From
air
air.
bubbles getting into a pouch if they get in, and the odds of it getting in are slim to none. Like the one she had is probably the only one any of us that are on this show would
We'll
ever
ever see.
experience.
yeah.
So
He's
he was
the,
just a little loco.
The
yeah,
pouch
he's the only one I
emphysema
ever
is
saw
supposed
that
to come
actually
from
inflated
something
his
else.
pouch while he
Over
was
the
courting
nose.
and floated to the top. And all the others, they as they're getting more pregnant, you may see them hitch to an airline, and you can actually watch them move back and forth and let the air bubbles bounce off their pouch. It
Right.
apparently does ease some of the discomfort that they're in.
Sure, because it's
That's
like, I mean, they're
another
like,
thing
they're
I'm
like, think about
seeing.
when you're pregnant and if you're
Yeah.
female, of course, but like when I was pregnant, man, I had to have my big body pillow and I had to have, hot water bottles and all this other stuff. Go ahead,
That's
Tal.
another thing I'm noticing is he's acting like he's uncomfortable when he's hitching. He has to move around
Yeah.
and get in a more comfortable position, and
Well,
They'll
that's
move
one thing
sideways
about an
when
egg
they
he's just
exchange.
acting like maybe he's suspicious of himself.
Well, that's
He's
what
like,
wait,
"What's
that's what
going
I was
on
gonna
with my
say.
body?"
That's what I was gonna say is that when it's their first pregnancy, they have instincts, but they don't
Mhm,
really know what's going on. They
mhm.
know I want those eggs. I don't know why, but I want them. I want the girl to give them to me. They get them. I don't know. I really. This is a
He
kind of
wanted to
disturbing
get
question.
pregnant.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I
Now he
wonder
doesn't
if they
want
get
it.
any. I really wonder if they get any pleasure from it, like humans. But anyways, that's another thought and topic. But my point is, then he's like, okay, wait, something else is different with me, and why don't I like a
Why don't I
woman who
feel
doesn't
right?
know she's pregnant yet? You know what I
Mhm,
mean? And
mhm,
all of a sudden, some stuff's different, weird. They don't like it. They don't understand.
yeah.
I remember the first time I got pregnant. I really shouldn't tell the story,
Did you
but
get
I
candles?
was I was very young, and it was
Mhm.
somewhat of a and I like to smoke, and all of a sudden it tasted terrible, and I couldn't. And thank God, I instantly quit. But yeah, something's different all of a sudden. So maybe the food tastes funny to him. Seriously,
well,
you
if you
know.
if you watch the mature males that have been through this a number of times, they'll sit there, they'll hang out in the back corner and hide. And they'll wait for the female to come and visit them as they're getting close to
Yep.
delivery. And rather than going out, they get much more lazy over time. Whereas the first time males, just like a first time mom, they can make some mistakes along the way.
Sure, sure.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
have a question. I think Shyla, aren't you the one that does have an all-in-one? Or am I thinking of someone else? I apologize if I'm wrong. But my next question is, I do remind me to go back to pouch emphysema because I have more questions for Ray. But my next question is, if he's indeed pregnant, I do the candle thing, I do a video showing you guys the difference and all that. But if he is indeed pregnant, now I got to start worrying about blocking off the whole I don't. It's not a return really,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah, your overflow, however it is,
right to the
where it
back.
goes back in.
Yeah, because I don't want him to end up in the UV sterilizer. Good lord,
Yeah.
or in the sock, which I've saved seahorses from a sock. I've saved seahorses
Yeah,
from.
I've collected them out of the sock before, and
What I used to do is typically most erectus will deliver between right after lights go on, just before dawn.
breakfast time.
And I
Yeah.
would set my alarm, get up, turn off all the equipment, turn on the lights, and just sit there with a net,
Yeah,
literally, as opposed to combs, which like to deliver sometimes between midnight and 3 a.m.
Oh,
yeah.
great
See,
time.
with mine, there was never rhyme or reason. He and hi David, hi Tanya, or Tana. Sorry, Tana. David said we have adults. Okay, let me see. David said
Mhm.
we have adults in one all in one and two batches of fry and another all in one. Okay, so David, I'm very curious. In the all in one where the adults were having the fry, how did you block the um, the sections where
overflow or it
where the
drains.
water goes to the back,
I
because
I would personally, I haven't done it in years, but before I got my nursery set up, I had the problems with that and them getting stuck, putting in sponge filters and stuff, and still having fry get stuck. And what I started doing is literally when I knew that they were about ready to deliver, I just moved the adults into a nursery and let them hang out there until they delivered.
gotcha. I don't want to do that though. I really don't want to. I
And you
don't.
kind of got to know the timing to do that
Right.
because you don't
And
want
and
them
I've had
stressed.
fry. I had fry for years, but it's been years, right? So this is kind of. I mean, it's not new to me, but it's renew to me. I'm
Hmm.
sure you feel the same way, Holly. It's like, oh wait,
Uh,
so wait, now I got to remember to get some
Yeah, all the
artemia, and oh,
stuff.
a
I
friend of
I
know.
mine,
have to
friend
say,
of
in
mine
my
used to
tank,
use.
it's a 55 gallon. I never blocked anything off. But Sandy always gave birth right around breakfast. It was like when
Yeah,
Cheryl said it was always at dawn when the tank lights, I'm getting ready for work
Yep.
and
oh yeah,
feeding it. That was always at breakfast is when he gave birth. And I just shut off the pump and then collected them in a cup as they came out. Now I did have some that went down the overflow and ended up in the filter sock, but somebody gave me some good advice. Leave the filter sock in the water and
Hmm.
detach it, pull it out where you can see it and scoop them out because they were fine. They were just all swimming around in there. And I scooped them out. If you pull it out and the water drains out, they're going to all stick to the felt.
yeah.
Right.
So as long as I kept them in the water, I didn't lose any. I could just scoop them out of there.
Right. And David said the first couple of times we fished them out and thankfully caught them early. The third time was a Sunday and we caught Clyde having contractions and turned the pump off. Clyde, so is that Heather? That's not Heather, right? Isn't Heather Seahorse named Clyde? I'm getting people confused. I'm sorry. Anyways,
I don't
a-
feather.
anyways, I get, and that's a good point, David, is that when you see him having contractions, but actually,
Mhm.
all my males have always had contractions for like a day. I mean, like he's
I've
having
had
contractions, you
mine
see
give birth
him,
for 2 days.
and yeah, and then and the warning fry is another good indication. But
Mhm.
again, since it's been so long, if he has a warning fry and I miss it, poor guy's in the sock somewhere.
Mhm.
I would just hate that.
Mhm.
Oh, and Shyla said
Mhm.
her male aborted his fry. His stomach was the biggest this time. I don't know if he thought it was time to give birth or if he was just too uncomfortable. Ah, I hate that. How many times has he been pregnant now? Because I'm guessing it's more than this time since you said he was the biggest. Um,
I've seen them abort fry also on occasion. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's not something that I worry about if a male does it once. And again, I question whether some of it may be he's male's uncomfortable, or it's too much, or uh, is his female dancing with another male that's setting him off? It's hard to say.
it could be anything. I had a male. I don't want to say abort, miscarry his
Mhm.
fry because I changed the light and it was way too bright.
Mhm.
I really believe that's the reason. People have told me I'm crazy, but they went from ambient light to a really high focused freshwater plant light because I wanted the macros to
Mhm.
do better. And I had little half egg, half fry things all over the bottom
Yeah.
of the tank that couldn't swim. Which I remember
See,
Heather actually got one to survive, at least for a minute. What,
for a
Ray?
while,
Wait,
yeah.
let
I
Ray
have
talk.
a theory that seahorses, like many animals and that, um, live on instinct for a lot of the things they do. And I have a theory that many times uh, when they expel the fry too early, I think
They know something's wrong.
the body senses something is wrong with the fry in there and
Mhm.
that they're not going to be
Mhm.
viable. And so they ditch it so they can start over again.
Well,
Well,
that is interesting because in the case where I'm talking about the light, my male had already had one or two batches, so it wasn't his first time. And so maybe
Yeah.
you're right. Maybe he knew. And Shyla said that her fry are um, produce, or they're not producing, they're getting pregnant nonstop, but they are not able to produce any healthy fries, so she never
Mhm.
had success. So you think it's just something wrong with the male or female?
And
It-
that could be, remember Sandy? I mean, he had 5 batches of fry before he finally passed away, from a bacterial infection. And so I have kind of a concern with Scrappy Doo
Right.
also, in that, for one thing, I don't want to stress him out, if he is pregnant, but also I want to try to keep him healthy so that I don't lose him over being pregnant or getting pregnant over and over. And so that's kind of why, it kind of concerned me that he doesn't really want to eat. He's not eating much, sometimes not at all. It's kind of intermittent. And I'm like, well, that can't be good for
Well,
him.
and
Is
actually
there
that can't
anything
be
I
good,
can do?
period. You, if
Or,
you,
know?
yeah, I know. I hear your question, Holly. I'll ask it again because since I talked over you, sorry. But no, that's always kind of stumped me too, is why they stop eating and very much when they're pregnant, when the fry are taking all their resources anyways,
Well,
they're
the
take
thing is that they have to stay hidden. They don't have the speed to swim. They don't have the maneuverability that they have when they're not pregnant, and they become a potential target for being eaten by something
so
else.
so basically they're like a bear hibernating. They
Yeah.
they have the resources
The,
stored up
the,
and they
the
just
other thing, too, on a side note, one of my friends used those plastic goldfish bowls, and she cut them and pasted mesh up on them. And she would put the mail in there every night before she'd go to bed when she was sure he was about to deliver any time. Dan used to actually use huge PVC pipes that he drilled and
mhm.
put mesh on, and would put the mail in those at night when he was not there to watch them all the time, to make sure, and that prevented them from getting sucked into the
Okay,
filtration
real
system.
sorry, real quick. Terry's Tropical Tanks needs to know. Super important question. What's a good bread that goes with popcorn and a Netflix and chill night? Okay, depends on the taste of the female. Now we're talking humans, guys. But
Yeah.
I would suggest, I don't like really dry. If they like dry, go Cabernet Sauvignon every time. But if they don't, I don't like dry, right? Like I drink Chardonnay, that's a dry white, but I just like, I don't like Moscato, the sweet stuff. But I can't do like Cabernet unless I'm eating like a steak and it's a food pairing thing. So if you want a red that just tastes good, it's like semi dry. Pinot Noir is my go to every time. Pinot Noir is fabulous because it actually doesn't have that after bite. I'm not a wine connoisseur actually, so I would say Pinot Noir is my answer. And David said, back to fry, but I hope I answered that good enough for you. Pinot Noir. David said they're on their third batch of fry, and he built a 2 blue tub with a sump set up thanks to Cheryl's video that we did so long ago.
Nice.
Cheryl,
Yay.
yay! That's awesome. I'm so glad it's still helping people because that is the way to go, and very cool that you're plumbing your 125. Please let me know when you're ready to jump in the stream and show it to us because we'll be happy to have you. Last thing I'm going to interrupt with is I did forget, if Andrea is watching or if you watch later, I finally reached Kenneth. So when we go back to talking about pouch emphysema, this will be relevant. But basically, Kenneth will be our guest on the 12th. And Kenneth was a guest on Tank Talk with Tyann. And Andrea saw this Tank Talk with Tyann live stream. And she asked a few Seahorse questions. And he had some really good uh, talking points. And they had a good discussion. And she asked him if he wanted to talk to us. I reached out to him. He's coming on the 12th. So just letting you guys know, Ray, you got to be here because we're going to talk
Yay.
Vibrio, bacteria, all that fun stuff. But okay, now I'm done interrupting. Who was talking when I interrupted? Was it you, Holly? Were you saying something?
I think it
Sorry.
was you talking.
Oh,
Like I don't, yeah. I mean, I
well,
don't have much more to say. I think I may have been asking about, what to do for a seahorse while he's pregnant. Besides what, I mean, should I try to feed him in his
Separate?
little corner while he's feeding Heidi,
Oh,
or because I don't want to pollute the tank, if he's not going to eat it. Should I leave him alone and let him figure it out? And what do I
Nope.
do?
I had a male, my very first male that gave me all the wonderful, beautiful fry that I had. And if you go look at my very first seahorse tank that was covered in macros and beautiful, I had made like a cave, literal cave, and he made that his spot so I couldn't get to him. He went
Mhm.
in that cave and wouldn't come out. I wouldn't see him come out.
Uh,
I'm sure he did at night and stuff. But so, what's your answer, Ray?
To what?
Should you try to,
what should
find
I
the seahorse and feed
do?
him?
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't feed them.
just leave him alone.
Yeah, if he wants something and needs it, he's going to come
He'll
out.
come get it.
If he
Yeah.
needs it and doesn't come out, there's something wrong with him.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I've had females go over, find the males, their mates, and literally they would be hiding in the back corner behind rocks. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, when the female would show up, she would greet him, and then they go over and eat together.
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
And Ray, you told Shyla in the comments that usually if a seahorse keeps getting impregnated and then not having healthy fry, it's because he isn't healthy enough.
Right.
And you would feed live foods that enriched with a good enrichment that includes high DHA levels. Great point, because one of these days I really want to get Dan in here to talk seriously about conditioning his breeders, because the commercial breeders condition their fry.
Hmm.
I mean, they're breeders. And when I say
They're-
breeders, I mean the pair that's giving
yeah,
them
the
all the fry.
ones that
As
are-
hobbyists, we don't do that. We just, oh, wow, my seahorse is pregnant. And if you're taking good care of your seahorses,
Mhm.
or if they didn't have a problem to begin with, Shyla, I'm not saying you don't take care of your seahorses. I know you do, but I'm saying if
Mhm.
they didn't have a problem to begin with, and then they're going to have fry, but they might not have as many. They might not have as healthy because of the fact that we're not conditioning them. So even though I probably wouldn't go to all the trouble because I'm not a commercial breeder, I need to get him in here to discuss what he did. It's been a secret up until now, but now he's not doing it, so he can share. And I do know it includes live foods.
Yeah, one of the things you're looking at is growing them out, getting size on them, getting body weight on them. And again, it's going to vary depending on whether they're wild caught or captive bred. There's going to be a lot of differences in how you handle it. And a lot of it just is plain old practice and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, no, I hear you totally. And as a hobbyist, breeder, that's exactly the right answer. I would love to know the secrets of how, because Dan conditioned. I mean, and I know Alyssa does
Mhm.
too. And I do understand that as commercial breeders, they're getting in wild caught. So conditioning does include actual, the whole process of deworming and all that stuff. But once they get them clear of anything, then they do the live foods with special feeds to the live foods, and maybe
Well, it
extra
seems
special
like
water.
breeding would take a lot out of them because, like I said, I notice, Scrappy Doo and Candy go courting, every few weeks. And it's, like I said, a 3-day event. They don't eat really for 3 days. While they're doing that, they're so obsessed with what's going on. And then now that, he's possibly pregnant, now he's not eating, and probably not feeling right and stress. So it's
Well,
got to be kind of a stress on them,
Sure.
all that, and nutrition wise,
Right.
probably
Well, and that's probably,
need
and
help.
Dan knowing that the male will stop eating,
Mhm.
probably conditioning includes really fattening them up with good healthy foods and
While
enrichments
they
first.
are eating, yeah.
And Shyla said, unfortunately, she's unable to get live mysis or amphipods. I forgot that. And
Mhm.
you're trying to enrich with Amino Mega by Brightswell. Huh.
Right.
I've not used it. Sometimes with enriching live foods, I mean, I don't know that particular product, so I
Mhm.
can't say, but just what I would say, if you're using enrichment on frozen foods, you,
Mhm.
even no matter how long you soak it or how you soak it, first of all, you don't want to leave the food sitting out soaking for too long. But if you
Mhm.
do it in a refrigerator or whatever, I would still be aware of the fact that a lot of it comes off right into the water. That's not even necessarily bad because it might
Mhm.
have potential in the water column, But just remember that when you're thinking organics and water change, because I've tried using enrichments, soaking. I'm not be able to talk tonight. Soaking frozen foods in enrichment, and you can see the second it hits the water, particles everywhere. So unless somebody has a trick for that, I know Ray, you've talked about using binding agents for medications. Can you for enrichment?
You can use Focus, Seachem's Focus, to bind
Bind it.
liquid medicines or enrichments and that, if you can't get them to be emulsified. Emulsion is the best method, but if you can't do that, say you could just use the Focus and it will make some of that medication or enrichment adhere to that food.
Well, and you told Shiloh in the comments too. Do you want to go ahead and say it yourself, or just about the freeze
It's much
dried?
better than trying to soak frozen food. It's better to use freeze dried, something that's appropriately sized. You can get freeze dried mices, you can get freeze dried brine, and because it's very dry, it's going to take up moisture easier. And as long as the enrichment is, how do I say, as long as it's fine enough, I don't know what word to use. It's
As long as it's little enough, is that what you're trying to
yeah.
say?
If the particulate matters that are in this enrichment are fine enough to soak into the mysis or the brine, then you'll be a lot better than trying to enrich a frozen one.
Interesting. I like that.
And she said, I gently squeeze the mycids in the enrichment to attempt to let it absorb. I don't understand that. Squeeze the mycid. Oh, like
Squish
squeeze it.
them so the
I
water
got it.
goes out of them, so they might absorb more.
Gotcha. Well, I like the freeze dried idea, Ray, but and you can't feed them straight freeze dried, right? You have to do something to it. So
No,
no, they'll eat freeze dried myces.
sure.
Really?
Well,
I
I
must
never
have.
tried the freeze dried brine, but I fed freeze dried myces.
Now, is
Huh.
freeze dried mysis just as nutritious without enriching it, though, as frozen?
Yeah, but in this case here, we want it enriched because the seahorse has a problem. You can feed a tank of various number of seahorses, and most of them may be okay, but some of them, for some reason, just don't have the capability with the amount of nutrition that they're getting the normal way there. Just don't build up their own systems strong enough to be able to
Support.
produce the viable fry. And it's
Yeah.
not because you're doing something wrong necessarily. It's because that particular seahorse may just have some problem in itself, in its own anatomy, that they're unable to convert sufficient of that energy to get what they need.
And real quick question,
So for
because wait, hang on,
normal
hang on,
those just freeze
hang on, Holly,
dried?
hang on, Holly, because Shiloh wanted to know she's enriched or she's squishing the mysis in the enrichment, but then she's rinsing it. Isn't that just getting rid of it?
It
No, she's
depends on
not
what you're
rinse it
using.
ahead of time.
Wait, Ray first.
But that'll take off a good portion of it. And unfortunately, in my opinion, it takes off way too much if you've already enriched it. And the other problem with the frozen stuff, you thaw it out before you're enriching them. Now the fluid's in there, and she's talking about squeezing it. Well, just squeezing it and then expecting it to suck up like a sponge just probably isn't going to work. Or if it does do anything, it's not going to do very darn much.
Hi, Tyann. We mentioned Tank Talk with Tyann earlier, and we're gonna have a guest from your show in a couple weeks. So,
I had
hello.
enough years where I
thing
tried
is,
to enrich frozen stuff, and I I finally gave up and just went with
Yeah.
enriching the live food.
You can enrich
Well, but
more.
hang on. Remember, she can't get live foods, so
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
whole issue.
freeze dried. She should be able to
So
find freeze
freeze dried and enrichment is the way to go. Now, if you're feeding though just normally, is freeze dried mysis as good as frozen mysis to feed them?
I would think
dried.
so because it's literally freeze dried, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
See, normally
Freeze
once
dried
it's
technically
I
is
give my dog freeze dried liver, and
Mhm.
when they do the freeze dried process, it keeps all the nutrients in there.
that's what PC mysis or
And
PE mysis
so
talks
I
about.
would suspect it's probably as good.
Mhm.
They
But
flash
I've not
frozen.
worked it.
Cheryl, what were you saying?
I was just going to say that one of the problems with freeze dried is depending on what you're doing. A lot of times it is very much lacking in nutrients. And they've actually done scientific studies on some freeze dried mice and stuff like that. And it's just not the same quality as the frozen.
Gotcha.
Well,
That's
see,
what I was
I know.
wondering.
Yeah,
Like
and
if you could feed them that instead of frozen mysis and it's the same, or is it not as good?
but wait a minute. Ray's whole theory is using freeze dried that you enrich, right? So he's not. He said you can just feed him freeze dried, which I'm going to test that theory, see if
I
they
only
actually need
use it
it.
for
But
enrichment.
right, for enriching. So he's not saying
Mhm.
substitution here. And Shyla said she'd try to find freeze dried. And I was gonna say
Mysis
something else,
or brine shrimp.
but
Or brine shrimp, yeah. Because you're enriching it, so you're putting the nutrition in it. So it could be brine shrimp just as well. As
might
long as
even be better because you're putting exactly what you want into it, So, and Cheryl, I totally understand your point, and I believe you that there's been scientific paperwork showing the nutrition is not where it needs to be, but we have that problem anyways, right?
Yeah.
And like PE Mysis talks about flash freezing their foods. That's why they say it's so healthy because they pull it from the water and flash freeze it. So apparently, their theory is that the whatever they just ate, the nutrition that's in their body at that moment is frozen into them.
stuck there. Yeah.
So
But see,
Human
that
food
has a problem
dog
because
and
that is a freshwater mysis. It's not, and
right.
because of that, it lacks the HUFA and EPA criteria that are truly needed for saltwater fish. And that, quite frankly, besides the exorbitant price of it, that was one of the reasons I ultimately backed down and went back to hikari, because at least that is a brackish water species. The other thing that I do differently is, yes, again, we don't have the nutritional profile even with hikari. And I also add krill and stuff like that. And I also I go through a lot of live food, mysis shrimp, copepods, amphipods, that kind of stuff to improve the nutritional profile. The nice thing about live food is if they consume it like they should, you're going to have very little leftover and waste compared to what you get with the frozen food, which is
True.
another factor.
Ray, what were you gonna say?
I find it hard to believe that the frozen mysis is not going to retain sufficient nutrition to be of any value. With humans, with dogs and cats, the food that is frozen dry,
Mhm.
the frozen dry food produced for them has
Uh-huh.
been shown to be excellent product because the
Yes.
freeze dried process happens so fast and
Yep.
it just contains this.
Uh-huh.
Way better than like if you want to buy frozen peas, it's much more nutritious than buying canned peas because the
Right.
cooking process
Mhm.
takes out so much nutrition from it.
But see,
Well, and I would just say that's the problem in general with scientific research is we need it, it's valuable, but you never know how they attempted it or, if there was a certain batch or a
Mhm.
certain whatever, and they display it for an answer to everything when really it's not.
yeah,
But
I'm not saying that freeze dried is bad. What I'm saying is the freeze dried that we get, because it's either fresh water or brackish water, does not carry the nutritional profile, even being flash frozen, to really sustain saltwater fish long term.
so you're saying make sure it's mycids
It was
instead of my
brackish
sis.
that I had to freeze dried.
Really, it was brackish.
Yeah.
But again, let's go back to the point. You're enriching it.
I've
That was the
I've
whole
never
point.
seen it
But I'm
though, so I'm
saying that
interested to see what's available because that could be an option. Like if you can't get, because at my local fish store, the Hikari they said is getting kind of iffy on the supply sometimes.
Ooh.
So if freeze dried might be an option if it's easier to find or get, but I've never even looked for it or thought about it.
but you have to rehydrate it before you can use it.
Yeah. So you soak it first, then let it, you know, soak
Yeah.
up the water
How
before you
does how
eat it.
does bacteria play into that as it's sitting rehydrated? Do you do it in the fridge or something? I'm just because a big deal to me is never leaving the stuff sitting out. Dan made a great point a long time ago. Sit a glass of water on the counter and watch how fast it gets gross. Right? Anytime. That's why I tell people, yes, rinse your food, but don't let
I
it
would think
like
it
defrost.
rehydrates quickly though. All it has to do is soak up some water, right?
That's
Yeah, it
true. Or
doesn't
enrichment.
happen all that fast. So, um,
Ah,
but if you're worried about it, just put a bit of peroxide in the water.
There you go. Good point.
mm,
Good point. All
Uh,
right.
I just
Go ahead.
wish I could grow things like mice and shrimp and stuff like that in large enough quantities to accommodate everybody.
no, I
Oh,
was
we wish
surprised
so
when
too,
I
Cheryl.
got those for Dandy's birthday.
You know
I mean,
what,
they were gone in a day.
Holly, I will bet that's why he's pregnant. Because I have noticed that too. When the seahorses get live foods, they
Hmm.
just get healthier, friskier, ready to go.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
would you guys agree?
maybe because that was only like a month ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah.
And I'll put a link to Herb's US mysids in the
Yeah.
comments because
Well, the,
that's where she got them.
yeah, the beauty of U.S. mice is it is actually the true saltwater
Mhm.
mysid shrimp. It's not, yeah, and
And
it's
to
one of those
me, that
things.
was a good deal. I mean, what you pay, it included the shipping and everything. And yeah, it's not cheap, but
Hey,
to me, the shipping costs that much. I've shipped live
Yep,
yeah,
seahorses and paid that much and more to ship them overnight. So really, that deal
is
was
good.
was really good. But it's
And
just
her,
they ate them all within a day, though. I
yeah,
mean, as far as my budget, I could not feed them live mice and shrimp
and
every day.
you were worried about getting too many and then going to waste. I remember
Yeah,
that, and I'm like,
yeah.
nah, they're going to be gone. And it's like
yep,
Dan used to do is in his nurseries is he would put adult mice and shrimp in there. And when they started disappearing, he knew his fries were big enough to start frozen training.
yep,
Mhm.
Use
yep.
that as a criteria for starting frozen training.
And
I
that's and
kind of
that's and
use
that's
brine
really
shrimp
great.
for that. I was
Oh yeah.
feeding my fry adult brine shrimp to teach them to eat bigger food as in the transition. So what I would do when my fry were born, I'd make enough brine shrimp to where I had brine shrimp growing along with
Right.
them because I figured out about the same time to grow brine shrimps to adults as it took for the fry to grow up to be able to eat the adult brine shrimp. It's about a 3 week.
That's
I figured
interesting
out.
that it's the same
So,
Yeah.
timing.
so
But
if
with
you
Dan's case,
start at
hang
the
on.
same time, you'll have some ready if you over make the brine shrimp and just keep them alive until that point.
Great tip. And in Dan's case, though, it's just genius. If you're able to get live mice, it's Shiloh. I know you can't, so
Mhm.
this doesn't help you. But when you have the live mice, it's in with the fry, they're cleaning the tank too. They're
Mhm.
cleanup crew, literally, and then become a feed when the fry get big enough. And I'm trying to look at comments here. Terry's tropical tanks said, "Are
Mhm.
we sure everyone understands that flash frozen and freeze dried are two way different things?" Yes,
Yes.
yes, no, absolutely. I should. You're right. I shouldn't have made the comparison because they're completely different.
Mhm.
You're right. But so yeah, if I made that comparison and it
Mhm.
confused anybody there, look it up. They're completely different. Um, and I mean my seahorses absolutely adore PE mycids for the record. I mean nutrition, blah blah blah, but
Mhm.
bottom line is they love it. So that's a treat for them too, because I do use Hikari on a regular.
Mhm.
And Zen Ginger said, in freshwater, it's widely believed that live foods trigger fish to think there is readily available fry food and make them want to breed. Yep, I'm telling you, because
Mhm.
yeah, if you want your seahorses to have fry, in fact, I'm about to call her
There
because
you
if he's not pregnant already, we'll find out with
Mhm.
the candle technique. But yeah, no, I've noticed that too. Absolutely. When they think there's available food and they don't have to wait on mom to feed them, they're like, yeah, let's have some babies. I agree. Absolutely.
Well, and it's like I personally, uh, I don't like feeding even baby brine shrimp, and so I use the Epocyclops panamensis copepods for
Mhm.
most fry for their first food until they literally outgrow them. And I've seen a dramatic improvement in growth rates, color, and overall health.
Well, sure, because Artemia, you've got to enrich it or it's just not good for
Yeah,
them. I mean, it doesn't
and
have what they need. So I agree. When I first started trying to raise fry and I didn't know you guys and I didn't know
Mhm.
what I was doing, I was just trying to use freshly hatched Artemia. And I know a lot of people think that if you get it in a certain stage, N star or whatever it's called, I don't
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
the cool words, but bottom line is a lot of people think if you get it right after they hatch that it's more nutritious. And it probably is, but I'm not that sophisticated to get it right after it hatches and feed
well,
it
the
immediately.
problem,
So enrichment is key with fry for sure. And I go ahead, Cheryl, but I want Ray to talk about something real
and I
quick.
was going to
When you
say
got
one of the biggest problems, and Ray is better at this than I am, is when you first get Artemia, they have a hard outer shell, and you
mm-hmm.
need to wait until they molt that, which is what is it, Ray? 24 hours later.
Well, it depends. Like professionals can do it in about 8 hours, but the home person, Instar 1 to Instar 2 will be basically a day.
Yeah,
Some of them will start, say, 18 hours or so. Some of them will take longer. They don't all go through the stages at the same period.
exactly.
Right, right. So it's like it's very hard to try to get
Yeah.
access to that.
And
Instar
that's
1
why I
also
like
does
to
not
have
have,
copepods in case I'm not ready.
Well, yeah, Cheryl's thought that using Apocyclops panamensis is genius, and I plan to do that if I have fry. But Ray,
you
talk a
can't
little
enrich
about
Instar 1.
what?
You can't enrich Instar 1. They don't have a completed digestive tract until they get to Instar 2. So a lot of people, especially in the freshwater, they like to grab the nuclei when they first hatch. So they'll take out the ones that hatch as soon as they start hatching, and then progressively, as others start hatching out, they'll remove more,
Eh,
and they'll feed them as soon as they're hatched so that they have a better fat
nutritional.
composition from the feeding sac that's on there.
So when people talk about, and thank you, and star is what I was talking about. But basically, you want them when they're freshly hatched because they do still have the egg sac in the
As long as they
shell.
have that egg sac started there, then they're better than nothing.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Okay.
but don't try to enrich them at that point. You have to ungrow them for a day. But
Okay. So either use them immediately or
yeah,
enrich them.
and the reason you
Is the
want to
point.
use them immediately upon hatching, because as soon as they hatch, they start consuming that egg poach, or that
Right.
nutrient poach.
They use it up before the seahorses can get it. And real quick, can you talk, Hygienist Reef? Can you talk real quick, Ray, a little bit? Because I said there's a difference, but maybe you can say it better. What's the difference between freeze dried and flash frozen? Like what you said, flash doesn't dry them out.
Flash
Drying
frozen,
them out does
basically,
what?
the flash frozen, as far as I'm concerned, is just meant to try and preserve something as close to as possible uh,
Live food.
to a fresh food, and this is like we're talking about human food. They flash freeze it, and it does save a lot of the nutrients that are in it, and especially when you compare it to a processed food. But the freeze dried food actually dries it out, so it's able to um, absorb moisture afterwards. Flash frozen doesn't dry it out, so it's not going to be able to take anything in.
And when you dry it out, is it removing like
Have
Cheryl was? Go ahead.
have you ever left anything in a freezer for a year or so, and then take it
Probably.
out, and it's gone all light? Not, I don't mean color. It's gone light because the moisture has come out of it.
Mhm.
Okay.
They just use a lot better cold sources like liquid nitrogen and that to freeze dry these things so much faster than what your freezer can do. And once that
So
moisture's out, though, then you have to rehydrate it. And rehydrating with a good
enrichment.
nutrient, um, the only way to do it, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm gonna try it for sure.
Well,
And
somebody too just posted with Terry's tropical tanks, baby brine shrimp is fed within 12 hours, hatching for the yolk sac. The problem with that with seahorses is they do not have an actual stomach, so everything passes through. And since they still have the hard carapace, uh, they haven't done their first molt yet. Basically, this would happen if you fed them to baby seahorses, is they would pass right through the digestive tract. We even see it in 24, 48-hour old brine shrimp, where they will literally pass live ones out.
I have a video of that, of a seahorse pooping a live little artemia.
Most
Yeah.
times
But
when you see that, though, it's because they're being pushed through from eating too much. But
eating
in
too
the
much, I
case
agree.
of the brine shrimp instar 1 stage, parts of it will digest going through, and usually it's the egg sac that will be digested. The rest of it doesn't get digested because
Yes.
of just what you were saying,
But they're
Cheryl.
getting what they need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So all they're getting is a very small portion of nutrition. Feeding them newly hatched baby brine shrimp is essentially why we try to wait until at least instar 2. And then we can enrich them with
But
the
then enrich them. Yeah, because I always do it that way. I do the enrichment and I keep them going in cycles. Is it the Apocyclops panamensis, the one you want to use
Yeah,
for feeding
uh,
the fry?
Reach Nutrition sells them as their Apex pod. If you can get a hold of Chad, he can really help you because he's the primary on working with them.
Perfect.
And
Yeah,
Terry
I
was
bought
Terry
them
was
together.
just hang on. Terry was just
And
telling us
Algae
for
Barn
hang
has
on,
them
hang
too.
on, hang on. Terry was just telling us for freshwater. Gotcha, Terry. And nobody's wrong here. We're
Yeah,
all
no.
Yeah.
conversating. Absolutely. And if what you're doing is working, then it works, period. And someone else said,
The thing,
Zen Ginger said, that's how I do it. Progressively feed the hatches, usually just 2 per batch, then make a new batch. Yeah, that's the one thing I do hate about fry is the dang foods. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I do
Hatching the
hatch every
artemia,
12 hours, 2 hatches a day,
enriching. And I'm curious,
2
in the
full times
freshwater,
a day.
I'm
Holly,
curious in the,
let
hang
me,
on, guys, hang on. In the freshwater world, I'm curious, you guys, if you do use enrichments and which one. Let me know in the comments. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was going to say, Holly, one of the things you want to be aware of when using the Panamensis pods,
Mhm.
they can be fed and they actually grow very well on algae paste. One of the beauties of that species of pods is you don't have to use in
Live phyto.
culture TISO and all the other
Yeah,
different.
no, that's when I fed him originally, because I didn't know any better, was Tigger pods.
Yeah,
So that's
that
what
can
I
be
use.
that could be a
But
disaster.
Right.
yeah,
And
but I
Cheryl,
mean,
that's a disaster. Wait, hang on.
but
Hang on. Cheryl, that's a
all I
disaster.
fed him was the algae paste.
Yeah.
Right. But Cheryl, that can be a disaster because the Tigger pods often attack the fry,
Well,
right?
So
ticker pods,
yes.
basically, depending on where they're from, uh, the ones up around Alaska are a big problem. The ones that are down in Southern California actually have hooks on their appendages.
Mhm.
And they have been found, and it's been out documented and filmed, where they literally, if the seahorse fry ingests them, it's probably going to kill them
Mm-hmm.
because
And
they're going to fight back.
right, Terry's tropical
But
tank
mine
said
were eating them because I
right.
didn't know. And maybe they just, well, because they were probably tiny enough, maybe. I don't know,
Sure.
but whatever, it was all right. But yeah, mine were they come from Reef Nutrition. And see, that's the only copepods we have here that are sold in the store. The other kind I'm going to have to order because they're not available at my
Well,
LFS.
just
But I
contact
wrote them
Chad.
down, so now I can order
Yep,
them.
and
Well, the thing
contact
is, yeah,
Chad. Hang on, guys. Contact Chad from Reef Nutrition. And I did want to say,
Mhm,
Terry's Tropical Tank said there are other things in the yolk sac besides protein, amino acids, and such. Absolutely, and like that's what I'm saying
mhm,
is there's not a one size fits all answer for any of this. And if it's working for you, it's
mhm,
working, and continue doing what's working. And Ray, you said powdered enrichment is usually better than emulsions, as the emulsions
mhm,
don't last long. Can you talk about that real quick?
mhm, mhm,
Well, your Celcons or Celcons uh, are emulsions, and while they're a decent uh, one to use, especially if you can get the high DHA one. Um, so they're decent, but the thing is, the average person is not going to use that little bottle up
mhm,
in the time that it goes skunky.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a waste of money. So if you can get powdered stuff like the Algamac 3050,
mm-hmm.
then you're far better off.
I miss Dan's feed so bad. We need him to produce that. Just if he doesn't do anything else, we need him to produce that. I loved that stuff. It was wonderful. And my seahorses got so healthy, fry or
Well,
adults.
there was another guy though on Seahorse Sources site, and he was selling enrichment packs that he'd made up, and he was making up similar to what Dan was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's always
realize I was muted.
weird.
Wait. Do you remember his name, Ray? Or I'll search him out.
Not offhand, not with my
I'll
memory.
search him out and we'll get his name. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was because Ray wrote something. Us older males always get weird.
Oh, Cheryl, that was from like hours ago. He was when
Oh,
we were talking about
okay.
males. But Ray, you got freeze dried copepods too?
Yeah, I bought them from yeah,
Doesn't matter. But what I was gonna say is now that I'm thinking
Brian Shrimp Direct.
Brian Shrimp Direct, gotcha. And what I was gonna say is in some cases, now that I'm thinking about it, freeze dried that you enrich, that you reabsorb with enrichment, might even be better than live because I've bought like adult live Artemia that was just not well taken care of in the tank that I bought it from, and it can bring in disease and stuff too, right?
Well, yeah, but that's why, like in all the years I've been, what, uh, 2.5 decades at least, I've been raising brine shrimp to adult because I used to sell them to stores around here. But always use them, treat them with peroxide before you feed them to whatever you're going to feed them to.
Right. And that's what I hope to do in part 4 of Seahorse Source whenever we can get that going on. Or ask Seahorse Source is talk about the process of using peroxide and enrichment with your live feeds, especially for fry, but in any case. But just really quickly, Ray, you use peroxide in what way? Is there a quick way to say it, or does it need to be a whole show?
Uh,
It needs to be a whole show, doesn't it?
well, if you want me to tell you how much to use per given amount of water, I can't tell you that offhand because I'm not doing it now.
Right.
And with my cognitive impairment, I can't just pull stuff out of the
Well, and
air.
I didn't mean to.
I have to go to my website to find things up or into my notes. And my website right now, I think, is down because Angel Fire isn't working.
Oh no. Why?
I don't know, but I can't seem to get on to it.
Do you have to? Are you paying for hosting, or is it like just
Yeah, I pay for hosting.
maybe check with them because it's probably them?
Yeah, I opened a ticket, but they haven't replied yet.
Oh, geez, I hate that. I hate that when you have to depend on someone else for sure. But Zen Ginger, I was just about to type it in, but these stupid nails, I can't do anything. You guys, they're so pretty, but I can't do anything because they're so damn long. I can't even type. So what I was going to say is, can you message me on Facebook? Because I definitely want to make you an admin of the group chat, all that good stuff. So please message me on Facebook. Just side note. But let's see. Terry's Tropical Tanks said, does any of the GP diets from Brine Shrimp Direct work for seahorses? What's a GP diet? Let me look it up here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
You're making me type. I literally can't type, you guys. It's so ridiculous. I type fast and I can't do it because of these stupid nails. Brine Shrimp Direct. Let's see. All right, let's share what we're doing here. See if we can see what we're doing. All right. So what was it? GP diet?
Yeah, from Brine Shrimp
Let's-
Direct.
We're on Brine Shrimp Direct, GP diet. I usually type faster than this, guys, I promise. Nothing. So tell us what, Golden Pearl maybe?
Oh,
bet that's
yeah.
it.
I bet that's it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't see anything
Micron?
there that would work.
You don't think it would work? Why?
Well, it's not going to elicit a response from the Seahorse fry or adults.
Because why? What did you see that made you?
Oh, 'cause it looks, is it like a freeze dried then?
It looks like it
like
has powder.
Because it's a powder look to it, dried. It's not live or frozen, so the fry won't go after it, really, is
Mm.
what Ray's saying.
Yep, there was a time when I could not find like I had fry and I could not get Artemia within 24 hours, whether it be
Mhm.
hatching or whatever. And I tried a little, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was this little bottle I found at the fish store of like supposedly newly hatched Artemia that was like liquefied. And so I rinsed it
Yeah.
and tried to feed it, but if they don't move, they won't eat it with fry.
Yeah.
In
You
my
have to
opinion.
train them to eat frozen. So, yeah. I
But
don't
is
see
this
them
is
eat-
this like enrichment or is this like
I
food?
think it's product made from brine shrimp, maybe dried and powdered and
Yeah.
formed into these golden pearls that he's talking about.
Gel
Yeah, it
diet.
looks like a food, like it's a made food, like you feed like my fish in my freshwater tank, they eat like flakes and pellets and things like that,
Sure.
powders.
Makes
But the
sense.
seahorses won't.
But I'm curious, right? So when we're talking free enriched freeze dried, we're just talking about adults, right? Because the fry
Yeah.
won't take it. Fry won't take it, right?
What, the freeze dried?
Yeah.
Well, fry aren't, but
Right.
adults will take it just as well as they'll take frozen.
Just like the frozen, yeah.
And Zen Ginger said they're sort of like teeny tiny micron pellets. Yeah.
That's what I figured.
I've actually heard people say they got seahorses to take pellets and flakes. I've never had that experience ever. They won't touch anything. Fry won't touch anything that don't move, excuse me.
And those people still aren't posting.
True. I don't post
Yeah,
much
you
either,
don't
but
see when they feed their seahorses that. So they probably fed their seahorses that, and then the seahorses didn't make it, and you don't hear anything more.
right, because it would be freaking amazing if we could get seahorses to take
It would
pellets or
be so
flakes.
easy.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Ugh.
Right?
But I mean,
I
with
will
all
say
these,
this, my seahorses have. When my seahorses were young, when I first got them, I haven't tried it since, but I used to put table shrimp in a little bit to feed my other fish and crabs and shrimp in the tank. And I've had seahorses go after that and eat it.
See, that I've
The
never.
table shrimp pieces, but it's not something that they continued eating. It was something that they're like, "Oh, food," and tried it. I
And didn't
wouldn't
like
say
it.
well, I don't feed it normally because I don't want to pollute the tank, but
Right.
just as a treat now and then I would give it to my fish and crabs. And when the seahorses saw it, they went after it. Dandy, I remember seeing him eat a big old piece, just rip it off,
Yeah, but
and
see, but see, sometimes I mean, sometimes their hunger's bigger than their head is. You know
they're
what I mean? Or they're
experimenting. Yeah, I don't know, but I haven't tried to feed them that
well,
really.
well,
So,
well. But I'm just gonna say because Cheryl has talked a lot about copepods and krill. When I have adult seahorses, they won't eat
Mhm.
either. And I did try. I couldn't get mysids, frozen mysids one time, and so I had to buy krill. And I bought some pack that had multiple things in it. And imagine trying to use one of those packs, guys, to try to pick out the mysids. There was probably five in each thing, and it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
But what I was going to
I'm
say
curious
is,
to try the krill. I've never tried that.
my seahorses tried it and said, "Nah, nope."
Don't like it.
They
Mm,
would try it if it had eyeballs and they could see that it was,
mm,
a
mm,
shrimp that looked edible. But then I don't know if it was the red color, the kind I got. I don't know because Cheryl had
yeah.
success with it. But my seahorses have never taken krill. Well, do your seahorses do though, right, Cheryl?
I have bought this. I forget the company. I'd have to pull it up right now. But
Pacifica, I think that's the one you've mentioned.
yeah,
Pacifica.
it's the one. The krill is much smaller than what you normally. It's about the same, slightly larger than Hikari mice or shrimp. And I found initially they found it because it's a little tougher than mice or shrimp. They weren't real big on it, but I started cutting it down into smaller pieces, and they started taking it really well. And then I've been able to move on from there and just feed it to
Mm.
them.
See, and well, first of all, let's try to see what we're talking about here. Frozen krill Pacifica plankton. Is that maybe it?
That looks like the right one. I can go double check real quick.
Well, don't trouble yourself. That looks right, and maybe I'll try that one because the krill that I got was huge. It did not look like that, and that's maybe why they didn't take it. But also, when you're talking about cutting it up into smaller pieces, I that's what I dread about Hikari mysids is because when I rinse and then feed it, there's all these small pieces that my seahorses they won't eat it unless it looks like a damn shrimp.
Yeah.
And maybe my guys are spoiled, but I mean they would take pieces that didn't have
Well,
eyeballs?
the thing is, the krill was larger, and so they would snick them, and but they wouldn't. We're getting them all in, and you could see they were getting.
Coughing it up.
Yeah, they weren't really liking it so
Spit it
much.
out.
And
Mhm.
when I made it smaller, they took to it like they'd been eating it all their lives.
Huh. Well, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe we'll try the 12.95. Add to cart. I'll do that later. All right. Anyways, interesting. And yeah, I'll try it. Try anything once because you're definitely right. The krill that I used way long ago when I couldn't get the mysis was huge, and they just
Mine was something like Alaskan krill or something like that. But
Mhm.
what I found is, of course, it is a true saltwater organism, unlike mice
Mhm.
and some of the other stuff. And they give
right.
it
So then
a
you get
addition
that
to their diet to improve their nutritional profile without having to uh, go through a lot of stuff. What's it?
well those look very different from what I got. Look, that's a centimeter, right?
Let me
The
go look.
ones I had were like the size of my stupid fingernails.
You
Here, let me put it up for you guys.
know,
Like it
give me
was
a
the
second.
krill I had was like
Big, yeah, yeah, yeah.
huge.
I've seen those in packs before in big frozen packs. So yeah, there must be
So it
different
probably
ones. So
it
look.
probably does matter, like Alaskan or
Mhm.
wherever they're from. And let's see. Um, Gina's Reef said the shrimp. No, sorry,
Yeah, the
wrong
other
one.
thing. first. Yeah.
If I remember right, San Francisco Bay mysis shrimp are a little larger than Hikari's mysis. I've never even seen San Francisco Bay mysis, to
We
be honest.
have that here. I want to say I don't know that I've seen that in the stores as far as their frozen mysis. We have the brine shrimp,
This
but
is the kind. Go ahead.
I don't know about San Francisco Bay brand stuff in general though. I
Why?
use it. Well, I use it. It's just so much cheaper that I wonder about the quality. I do use it when I was converting fry to frozen. I would buy they have frozen brine shrimp, and I would mix that with their live brine shrimp before I was converting them to frozen, just to get them to eat frozen, because they will snick. You can fool them. You can put the frozen baby brine shrimp in with their real brine shrimp, the live, and get them trained to frozen a little bit earlier. I found
Hmm.
because it's the same size as their baby brine shrimp. You can buy frozen baby brine shrimp, and they have that, the San Francisco Bay brand. So I did that and their adult brine shrimp and mix it with the live foods as I was converting them, and I could get them to start sampling frozen around the 2 week to 3 week
Yeah.
time before I got them to the frozen mysis,
Hmm. I
because
remember.
frozen tiny stuff.
Yeah. Real quick.
Yep. Well, I was going to say real quick, Felicia McCauley used to use Cyclops Ease, but the product's no longer manufactured. It was a
Mhm.
great transitional food that the
Yeah.
seahorses would take. And Ray, you said you have Hikari jumbo mysis. That's a great point.
Oh,
I'm so glad you made it, because I've accidentally ordered mysis before. I don't know if
I've
they're
never seen.
freshwater. I don't know, but the seahorses will absolutely not take it. And you said not even the abs. So if the food's too big, which I do want to say, it depends on your seahorses, right? Because Lucy
Mhm.
used to tell me she couldn't keep live like peppermint shrimp in her seahorse tank because the seahorses
Yeah.
would eat it. My seahorses would never go after
Oh,
peppermint
no.
shrimp.
Uh,
They're too
No, she
big.
was telling me she thought maybe because my peppermint shrimp passed away. I don't think I shared that with you guys, but Dandy pointed out the dead shrimp to me,
Mm-hmm.
and she was thinking maybe he got it or had been eating it, but the shrimp had not been eaten at all, and they've lived together for a couple of years. And Dandy would not even
Right.
eat the mysids that were live. So I don't think he ate, but he was concerned that that the dead peppermint shrimp was
You have a
was
special seahorse that was playing ER and saying,
it was
"Mom."
no, it was the strangest thing. Well, the peppermint shrimp passed away inside of this little cave thing that sits next to Dandy's dish. And it was breakfast, and Dandy would not come to breakfast. He was in the cave looking out at me. And I put his food in the dish, and he's just looking at me and not going to go eat like he usually does. I'm like thinking, what's wrong? And then he ducks himself inside the cave, and I see he's like pointing with his snout, almost like he's nudging something. And so I look in close, and I saw the back half of the shrimp. And he wasn't moving. And normally the shrimp's like all over the
Right, right,
place.
right.
I'm all, so I lifted up the decoration, and sure enough, he had passed away, but he was intact. He hadn't been eaten. All his parts were there.
Right,
And I just got him with a net and pulled him out.
and he was gone.
And then
Yeah.
Dandy went and ate his breakfast. Like,
Well,
okay, now we can get on to bed.
Shyla said Dandy is a gentle giant. for anyone at home, if you don't have this close personal relationship with your seahorses, just understand that Holly's seahorses are special. Okay, she is
I
mama.
spent a lot of time with them.
That's right.
Kelly.
And Ray, wait, hang on. Ray at Terry's Tropical Tank said, "Do you think as seahorses continue to be commercially bred, that processed foods will become more effective?" You said no. Why?
Well, to get that instinct bred out of them, you're going to be talking hundreds of years.
So it's more about the instinct of the seahorse, because it would be nice because you can, enrich the heck out of and put what you want into pellets or flakes, but they won't take it, right?
Yeah, instinct in animals and fish and birds and that it takes so long to make any significant change in them. There are probably some animals that might do it faster than others, but
Well, and
seahorse being at the age, when you look back how many what do I say, eons ago seahorses have existed since, probably before
Hasn't
biblical
changed.
times,
Mm-hmm.
and they still have those same instincts and haven't changed anything. So
but wait a
commercially
minute,
breeding them over 100 years even isn't going to do much.
Wait a minute. Well, first of all, I would say then I guess we need to start trying now. And second of all, I would say that's not true. Things have changed. We figured out how to keep them in tanks. I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they've
That's
changed.
not changing the
I
seahorse.
know. I
That's
said
changing
that.
us.
That's changing what we did.
I agree completely, but they said the same thing about mandarins, that you couldn't have captive bred mandarins. You couldn't feed them frozen or pellets. And I know many people that have mandarins that'll eat frozen and pellets. So I'm just saying, if you
How
start
long has a
training it into
mandarin
it,
been on Earth?
I don't know, Ray. I don't know.
I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
But they adapt. They adapt. I truly believe that's why we have so many different species and so many different complexes, because they all come from the same dang seahorse. They've just adapted to where they moved in the ocean, right? That's my logical theory. I have no scientific backing, but that's my theory. And so I just think that they can adapt to their situation. I don't think it'll be easy. I agree with you. It'll take forever, but again, mandarins, I mean, even though they're not as old, they won't, most people would say you can't feed a mandarin frozen foods, but now we've got companies selling captive bred mandarin that eat frozen foods. And I think that's key too, is the captive breeding part, is that when you breed them, maybe you can't take a mandarin or a seahorse, obviously, from the wild and expect it to eat whatever. But when they're captive bred by a professional breeder, things can be progressed, I think. I don't
You
see
can't make
seahorses ever
things
taking.
relative like that, though. For instance, you can take a wolf that hundreds of years ago probably only ate live food that he captured. But if you give him dead food and he recognizes it as meat, he's going to eat it anyway.
So
it's an altogether different situation. And you can't compare, say, a wolf or a mandarin or something to a seahorse. They're just not the same thing to be
The
able to.
seahorse might not be able to process a pellet as food because of the way their
that's a good
digestive
that's a
tract
good
is.
point.
I think that's actually a big part of it. And most
That's a
fish
great
are
point.
different than seahorses in that aspect. So while another fish might be able to eat something different and just be trained for it, I don't think the seahorse has the ability to process the nutrition in that form is probably the issue.
Okay, to argue against
Fantastic
that,
point.
my favorite fish in my tanks were tangs. Tangs don't have a digestive tract either. They're the same as seahorse. And,
Really? I didn't know that.
There'd be no problem feeding them just about anything.
Interesting.
But do they stay healthy?
Pardon?
But would they stay healthy? Like, we talk about nutrition so much with seahorses
You feed
because of the
tangs
digestive
pellet.
tract thing.
My tangs stayed healthy.
Really? Huh. But well, wait. With tangs, like I'm thinking tangs now because I kept some, and with tangs, they might eat your pellets, but they're also eating algae off of rocks, and they're getting nutrition from other sources,
Yeah, they're
right?
grazing all the time. But the thing is,
So seahorses wouldn't do that.
but the main food that I would feed them most of the time would be what are they called? Those sheets of algae.
Nori?
Nori.
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 That would be the main food that I fed them. But if I put any brine shrimp in there, man, they gobble them up like crazy.
Right, but as you said, it wasn't their main feed,
And they
right?
were herbivores.
Which is insane,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
shows how much science works. I mean, shit. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was going to say what that was that I've got, the krill that I use, it's called Krill Pacifica,
Okay.
and it actually works really well. But the other thing, where you're talking about changing diets, and some fish will do it and some won't. If you look, and the point was already made, if you look at birds, I did a research project on Clark's nutcrackers, which is a bird that high altitude bird that's in the Rockies. And their
Here
primary
too.
food is they cache only white bark pines seeds that they pull out the trees, and they hide them in the ground on exposed slopes because those will thaw out and they can gain access to them.
Okay.
And it's a rather complex way of getting through the winter. But my point is that's just one species that has a rather oddball survival. I mean, most birds would head farther down the mountain and get out of the snow. They don't do that.
Right. And the only point I was trying to make to contradict all of this is that I think that if they could no longer get that food, they would adapt and eat something else versus going extinct. And that's
Sometimes.
not, yeah, and we don't want to
Right now,
act for
the
sure.
perfect example of that are penguins down at the South Pole. There is one species of penguin that has now started adapting to the warmer climate
Yes.
and other foods that they would never have eaten before. The rest of them, populations are declining rapidly because they will not adapt.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, we're seeing
Well,
in
kind of, we're
polar
talking Darwin's theory now. Terry said, great conversation. I love what we get
Yep.
into on Wine Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, now we're talking Darwin's theory of evolution, the strongest survive, right? I don't like it, but I mean, think about it. When seahorses got pushed by global warming or water, for whatever reason, they got pushed into different areas. They adapted. They figured it out. I'm sure many died, but the strongest survived and recreated. Right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
adaptation, right? So in the case you're talking about, Ray, some of them are. It's not good. We don't want it. We want to give them what they need and just
Some are and some aren't.
leave it
So
there.
you can't say that any species is going to adapt over time because we have many extinct species
Yeah.
since the beginning of time that
True.
couldn't adapt.
That's true. That you're
The
not.
ones what we have now are ones that were able to adapt.
You're
And
not
we still
wrong.
have seahorses that have been around for so long, so they may adapt too. But when you look at the fact that it's taken thousands of years for them to adapt, uh, we don't have that time to get them to change so that they're going
Not
to eat
likely.
Right. It's not.
eat the gold
Yeah,
below.
and it shouldn't be a priority. If you want to keep seahorses, just feed them what they need. Right. Absolutely. But I still think it's a cool conversation, like Terry said, and I think
Yeah.
somebody may eventually do it. It's just not going to probably be in my lifetime. And I agree with everything you said, and I don't know, but I did want to show real quick the difference because when I bought krill, it was actually San Francisco Bay. This is the. Are you guys seeing it? Let me see if you're seeing it.
Yeah.
No, you're not seeing
Mhm.
it. Hang on. Let me reshare. This is the one that I bought. And they're like, look at the eyeballs. See the little black eyeballs? They're huge.
Oh,
I can't
yeah,
make
they
that
look
mark.
big. I've
The
seen
krill,
those. Yeah.
the krill pacifica comes in a pink package,
Yep, hang on. I'm gonna try to pull that up
and
too.
it's manufactured, I think, if I recall correctly, in another country and imported.
Okay, so this is pink. I think it's not from Brine Shrimp Direct because that's
No,
pink.
no, I didn't
Well,
get it.
they're selling it, but it might not be their brand.
Ah, gotcha.
I think Pacifica is a brand.
Well, but I mean, just
Let me
look
look it up.
in general how small those eyeballs are compared to the other one, right? Those look like mysid shrimp to me.
Yeah, these are just
So,
a hair larger than uh, small mysis shrimp.
so I'm just saying, if anybody decides to try krill like I'm going to, make sure you're getting the small version. That's the
Yeah,
bottom line. So
I think I got those from Dr. Foster's and Smith or one of those.
let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, it looks like there's one called Krill Pacifica,
That's
and
it. That's
it's in
the
a
one.
cage pack. I see it.
Wait, Dr. Foster's and Smith krill for
And this one I'm
okay.
seeing at a place called Premium Aquatics. So it's
Yeah,
a
that's where I
brand.
got it. I got it from Premium
Here we
Aquatics.
go. Here's the picture.
Just share it. Oh, you can't. Okay. Pacifica krill. I'll try to
It's
look it up
on
so I
my
can share it.
phone. Yeah. So if you just type in Pacifica Krill, other stuff will come up, but this looks like it's the actual brand Pacifica Krill.
Yeah, and I forget where it's from, but it was not originally in this country, and it's actually started out as a recent import.
All right, hang on. Help me
That's
find it
funny.
here.
Yeah, this one it says on the package Utah. That's kind of
So,
funny.
so from
Well,
I've got wait, hang on. I've got it from Blue Zoo Aquatics. That's it.
Yeah,
no,
so different places sell it. That's the same package I found, but a different website to sell it.
Okay.
So it looks like it's a brand, and different aquarium stores and places will sell it.
And where did you find it? Premium Aquatics. So this one.
I Googled it and it came up. It's
We don't
harvested
care about your 10% off.
From the Pacific Northwest, it says.
I wonder how much their shipping is. I bet it ends up $20. But
Yeah,
give it a
this
try.
on my website it says
Look at
flat
that.
rate
35.
$34.99. Yeah, $35
Do a
shipping.
search on Amazon and see if you can get it off of Amazon.
All right.
Right.
Let's look.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to pay for shipping.
Yeah.
I can't barely type, guys. Sorry. These stupid nails. All right. Are you guys seeing what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
you're playing with your computer.
Krill. Because I did think I saw it on Amazon. Not krill oil. Nope. Frozen. Let's say frozen.
Oh, Bulk Reef Supply has it, looks like, too.
They have high
BRS is
shipping
usually
too.
more expensive than Premium Aquatics or Dr. Foster and Smith.
Actually, I was going to say, I don't think Amazon does frozen feeds. Come to think of it.
Amazon doesn't what?
Do frozen feeds. I've never been able to find a frozen food on Amazon. Like even mysid shrimp, right? Oh, I can't
Bulk
type.
Reef Supply has it. I don't know what their shipping for it would be, but
All of theirs is going to be not. Oh wait, look at that. Aquaculture Nursery Farms is $179. Holy shit! All right. Anyways, we did say
they're live. Wow.
Yep. But like you said, I did see it at Bulk Reef Supply somewhere.
Oh, and here it
There it is.
is, a live one. I'll see if I can look. I found a picture of a live one. They're cute.
Yeah, and the thing is, I got the flat packs. I always buy the flat packs instead of the little.
Wait, hang on. Show again, Holly, because I was big.
Look at when I was Googling. Look what I found.
Oh,
This is the actual creature. So they come from my ocean.
Yeah, but
California.
that looks big again to me.
Yeah, it
know.
is.
My seahorses like them. They have no problem with them.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try it, and we'll see.
They ate them the
Sure.
first day, but they were a little hesitant about it. After about 3 days, they were pigging out on them.
Were you feeding anything else though, or was it
Well, I was still
it's
feeding
this or eat?
the Hikari mycid,
Okay.
and I was still feeding them intermittent live, shrimp and amphipods and stuff.
And Gina's Reef said premium is my store's secondary vendor. Ask your LFS if they order and they should be able to get it for you. That's a great point because when it comes to seahorse species or which you have to trust your LFS to talk to them. We that's a whole different topic. But if you have a relationship with them and you know they keep them in separate tanks and stuff, I've gotten certain species through talking to my local vendor, local store that not local, it's an hour away. But anyways, my point is absolutely great point. You can ask them and they can get it in for you. Makes it cheaper. Totally.
So the type of krill it actually is, they're called Euphausia pacifica. And they're about 1/3 the size of other krill. They're 0.25 to a half an inch, which is still kind of big, but they're the smaller of the krill. Yes.
But they're
So,
very.
to me, it
Oh,
seems
that's
like
what to
it
look
seems like
for.
a comparison to PE mycids, which my seahorses love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
So
definitely
it's
going to try it.
They also have a very narrow
more
body,
specific
than
krill.
mysis shrimp. So they're a little bit longer, but they're not as fat.
It's fat. Makes sense. Makes sense. Gina's Reef said, or if they order from DFW Aquariums, they have V2O as well. We have it you have it in your store. What's V2O? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
V2O. V2O. Okay. Yep. I'm going to need to hear from you, Gina's Reef, because when I search V2O, this is what I get. God help my share history, right? I don't, yeah. Phone specifications. I got
Mobile
nothing.
phone? Yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
So let me know what
Petco
V2O is.
sells frozen krill. I don't see Petco. I don't buy frozen foods from Petco or PetSmart where I live because they keep it on the sales floor in a freezer where customers can open and close it like all day,
And it gets
and
yucky.
so I don't know what's defrosting. I don't trust them.
Yep.
So I only buy my frozen from a privately owned local fish store, and they have a deep freeze behind the counter. You have to ask for what you want, so people aren't just rifling through the frozen food.
Right. Nope, that's a great point because if you go to your pet store and you see a frozen pack of mycids that's brown, please don't buy it. It's not good horses. Gina's Reef.
Plus,
Do you
they
ship?
only
If you
have
hang
PE.
on. Gina's Reef, if you ship, put your link and put your link in the description anyways. Put it in the chat and I'll put it in the description. Because absolutely we trust you. But go ahead, Holly.
Oh, I was saying, plus they only sell PE, which I buy Hikari. I don't get PE.
Well, see, I have to drive an hour to get my frozen foods, so it's a pain in the butt. I wish I had a
I do
shipping
too, but
method.
I have to drive an hour to get anywhere. I live
Right.
in the middle of nowhere. So.
See, I don't. So it's just for the seahorses, but they do have a red robin right by there, which we don't have in my town. So I get my wonderful salad from Red Robin, so it all works out. It makes it worth the trip. But anyways, we need to find a better way to ship frozen foods because I know Cheryl, you had some luck with Dr. Fawcett. I've never gotten frozen food shipped that stayed frozen ever because to do that would take such a huge, no business is going to do that. And that's why most of the pet stores food isn't frozen anymore. I'm curious, Gina, how you deal with that.
I think they know that if it comes in thawed, that they're going to be paying me back and sending me a new shipment because I've been dealing with some of these people for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the day that one of the boxes came in and it had a bunch of birthday favors, apparently it's for somebody's child. And I called them. They never questioned. They had a new one to me the next day. And I was telling the truth, obviously. but I don't know if that's the factor. I'm just some of these companies I've been dealing with forever.
I'm trying to look up Gina's Reef to share the page here. I know I have it. Go ahead, Holly. Whatever you were going to say.
I wasn't.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were getting ready to talk. I can't do
No,
two
no.
things at once. Y'all know that. But okay, they're talking. They'll do it. All right. And Ray, what were you saying in chat? Let's see. You
I
have
have a place here in Ontario that I can order from, and when they ship the brine shrimp, it's shipped with dry ice.
Yep.
It's in a styrofoam container, and
Yeah.
I've never ever, and this is over probably 12 years that I was buying it from them that way.
Mhm.
And I buy 12 flat packs, and they ship it to me. I never ever had a problem.
And that's exactly
Really?
what I've experienced also.
I've
See, I
never
don't
bought
know.
frozen other than at the fish store
Well, in
myself, so
fact,
I don't have the experience with
I
that.
have, and it comes with it looks like a very good packaged container, and
Package.
it's got the I don't know about dry ice. It's got ice packs or something in it, but
Mhm.
it's never still frozen. I don't know. Maybe my carriers are just crap, or I don't know. But
oh, that's cool.
and Gina is sharing her information, and I will make sure to put it in the description instead of just the chat. And yeah, Gina, I will be reaching out to you because I want to figure out how to get frozen feeds better for sure.
Well, I ordered a shipment of the Hikari frozen, and one bag came in, and it was a solid block of ice that had somehow
Mm.
gotten all messed up. And I called them, and they said, "We're sending you a new one right now." Nope.
Nice.
Nice. Nice.
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
and I'm definitely not blaming the supplier, just for the record,
Yeah, yeah.
because you just don't know what happens to it within shipping. If it has to go
Yeah.
through multiple facilities,
And I mean,
shipping
when I get
sucks.
mine at the fish store, I look at them first, I'll look at them and I'll be like, that one's too dark. Yeah, that one might have got partially defrosted somehow because they have a supplier, that brings it to the fish store too.
And
So you don't know what's
right,
happening way
right.
there.
And Gina said she's already shipped. So, like Ray said, she has styro box with dried ice, and absolutely. And she
Not
said not
fish.
fish foods,
Yeah.
right? I, so I'm gonna personally get with you, Gina, for sure. And yeah, I mean, anything else we got to say about that, Ray?
You talking to me?
Yeah, no, I just felt like you had something else to say. Maybe not. Sorry.
No.
Well,
Well, right now I'm down to one hearing aid. The battery's gone in the other one.
well, we so appreciate you being here, even though you're down to one hearing aid, and things haven't been the best day and the best week. But yeah, don't ship the fish with dry ice. Absolutely. But yeah, no, Gina's Reef. Let's try to get you some business because
there's some fish that would survive dry ice.
okay, well, we're not going to
But
talk about
we're gonna have
that.
to we're gonna have to get up to the Arctic.
Red ones have no problem.
Well, let's talk frozen foods, right, guys? But anyways, it is
Well, that's
10:08.
good to
Go ahead.
know. It's good to have multiple sources for things because, we're relying on that to feed our pets. And yeah, it's stressful when you're like coming down to I always buy food ahead, so I'm always a few weeks ahead on food for that reason
Oh yeah.
because I'm afraid of them not having it when I need it.
Right. And let's go to Ray again. Why is brown frozen mysids bad? What does that mean if it's brown?
It's
Brown.
been thawed and probably refrozen. It's spoiling.
I've never seen brown. I've seen light a color much lighter than the normal
Mhm.
appearance,
Mhm.
and that I attributed to a thaw and then refreezing.
Mhm.
And the reason I assumed that is because I could tell from the package itself
Mhm.
with the it wasn't dead flat anymore. You could see that
Yep.
it
Bubbles.
obviously thawed, but it had that a real light color to it. I think a brown color, I would think more that that would be aged out
Or
and maybe not stored over a long period of time at sufficiently low temperature. I'm lucky. My freezer I keep at minus 34,
Yeah.
mhm.
and so I buy 12 flat packs at a time. Now, mind you,
Mhm.
with all the tanks and seahorses I had, that wouldn't last all that long.
Mhm.
But still, at minus 34, I would have no problem keeping it for 6 months.
Well,
Mhm.
and that's what Dan's talked about too, is that
Yeah.
our typical freezers aren't good
Hmm.
enough to keep these frozen feeds for 6 months or whatever they say you can keep
Mhm.
them. So you
Mhm.
got to be careful. If frozen, I don't
My
know.
freezer, my freezer I bought in 1963.
Well,
Mhm.
see, the older stuff has value and works better. But
Mhm.
nowadays they want you to buy a new one, so it's going to be crap. My only point is if you're doing this commercially or trying to do this like
Mhm.
extensively, get a deep freezer that you can control and make the temperature much lower because our
Mhm.
typical freezers won't keep the food where it needs to be for long
Mhm.
enough, right? Makes you
Mhm.
wonder about our food too, kind of. But anyways, I was gonna
Yeah,
say too,
I
if you
keep
see it
mine
turning
really.
brown, if you see your mice, if you take your pack out and it looks brown, just throw it away because it's no good. I don't have the scientific. Maybe we'll talk with Kenneth about this on the 12th, about why it turns brown and the bacteria and what's going on. But it's been thawed. If you see bubbles in it and you can tell it's misshapen, just
Mhm.
it's not good for the seahorses. If you're desperate, okay, but if not, don't use it. And Terry, you
You
said
want
you
to look at the
hang
strip
on.
too,
I want
not what they're in.
I know, and I'm going to let you make that point. But Terry said I have ice fished and brought fish back after being frozen solid. Actually, I can't remember if it was Cheryl or Dan, but I think it was Dan. He tells a great story about seahorses in shipping. They got so cold that he got them and they were
Mhm.
all lying at the bottom,
Mhm.
and he started temp acclimating them just to see, because they weren't breathing, they were
Mhm.
frozen
Mhm.
literally, and
Mhm.
they came back. So
Mhm.
cooler temps better in the seahorse world for
Well,
sure.
they've
But
even
he has
found in Chesapeake Bay and farther north where they're laying on the substrate when a blue northern blows through,
hmm
and they followed up and monitored them and found that once they warm up, they just swim up like nothing happened.
which I
Mhm.
can't imagine how. Like if I
Oh,
mean like
it's like hibernation. It's like
Mhm.
the
I
animals that
guess.
go dormant in winter, some of them. They probably are like that.
And it's going to vary by species.
Yeah. They just shut down.
Yeah, but I mean, he brought them back and they all survived, which is amazing to
Mhm.
me. So, and
Mhm.
Gina's Reef
Okay, can
said,
I jump in on that?
yes, Gina's Reef said deep freezer for the win. Absolutely. And I'm guessing you have them at your store. Go ahead, Ray.
Um, the reason they came back is they were not frozen.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I take I euthanize seahorses using the
By
freezer.
freezing them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I put them in the freezer there, and long before they're frozen,
Whoa,
they
whoa, whoa,
start.
whoa. Let's do a disclaimer here. You
The point is that
euthanize seahorses in the freezer when they are dying or dead or sick or
Yeah,
something. You don't do it for
why
Yeah,
fun.
not?
there's something
Why not?
wrong
Okay.
with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on, Ray.
Okay,
It's humane.
the
and
point is that they can handle with how.
Wait, let Ray talk. Go ahead.
so and I get them in there, and I leave them till they're no longer moving, no breathing. You can touch them; they're still not frozen,
Yeah,
but
they're not frozen in the truest sense of the
physically they
word.
should be. Unfortunately, one time I didn't leave it long enough, and it was all these signs. I took it out, and it came back to life
Uh-uh.
because it just wasn't long enough. But it doesn't have to be frozen, so
Yeah.
they could be. I figure that puts them into a state where
Mhm.
many animals get in the
Yes.
cold, and they're still alive, but there is no sign of life.
Right.
They're
They
Don't
dormant.
breathe?
Yeah, they're like dormant. No, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they don't need to breathe at that
Yeah,
point.
no. Well, and this species has been found as far as north as Nova Scotia.
yeah.
And it gets a little chilly up there.
Just have yeah.
That's insane to me. Like now I'm thinking because I have a few seahorses I've lost in my freezer currently, and I'm like, oh my god, could they come back to life? I know they
Not
couldn't after all this
now.
long. I know.
If they start getting ice crystals in them, they won't come back.
Oh, the crystals, got it. This is such a messed up conversation, y'all. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's
Speaking of ice,
fascinating.
I'm going to have to sign off and get some ice for this damn year.
You go
Aw.
take care of you,
Coming
Ray.
up.
Actually, guys, I
Yeah,
know
feel better.
we get to talking and chatting, and it gets so fun, and we could go forever, but I do have to work tomorrow, so I am gonna have to end it tonight. Ray, you can go now if you need to. Thank you for coming, and thank you for everybody coming. Great conversation tonight,
Mhm.
and I will announce the speaker for the 12th and any other updates on the group and such in posts. So make sure you're following Seahorse Whisper on Facebook and YouTube. And anything else, you guys, before we end this, I'm sorry, I do have to end it. But
Okay.
great conversation.
Good night, all.
Good night, Ray.
Right, Ray.
Good night, Ray.
Cheryl, Holly, you good
Yes.
for tonight? All right. Well, Holly, let's toast to our males hopefully being pregnant and not sick. Happy Wine Wednesday. Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone.
told you-
Cheers.
I
Hang on,
told you
let's
not to
cheers.
take him to a drive-in movie.
All right.